How are we going to plan for our future? Giving us income where we can retire early or we don't have to worry about spending money, making sure like our kids are going to be taken care of when they're older. So that's really what is driving us, is just to make sure we're continuing with our goal.
Can you still find good deals even in Texas? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about with our guest, Kacy, a member of the Lady Landlords Inner Circle, all about today. Kacy, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I appreciate you taking the time out and just sharing a little bit of your real estate investing journey over the past couple of years with our listeners. I love doing these episodes because it really shows kind of all the women individually of what's going on in Lady Landlords, right? We're such a large group, but this really kind of gets to highlight and hear what are the steps and what women are actually kind of going through day to day. So I appreciate you taking out the time to sit down and just kind of let us kind of dive into what you've been doing in real estate over the past couple of years. But why don't you just start off by just giving us a quick introduction of who you, the woman, is, even behind real estate?
Yeah, so I am a wife and a mom of two daughters. We have two dogs and eight fish. Yeah, my husband and my kids are my whole world. I'm also a school psychologist at a local district, and I've been doing that for 8 years. And then I've been working with kids for about 15. My family and I, we enjoy going outdoors. We are super big campers. We love going to the beach. We explore new state parks all the time. We visit the family ranch. So we try to be outdoors as much as possible. So that's pretty much our hobbies. We're always trying to find something to explore and get into. Yeah. So
And that's nice that you get to be able to do that as that family too. Now,
yeah,
are you and your husband, are you guys both from Texas originally?
we are both from Texas. We both are from San Antonio, and we didn't meet until our 20s through actually two good friends of ours, and they kind of were like, "Hey, you guys would be perfect for each other," and the rest is history.
It's really cool. That's
Yeah.
really nice that they were able to kind of recognize that and kind of play matchmaker.
Yeah. It was fun.
I always wonder, I met my husband through a good friend of mine as well. She wasn't really like kind of matching us up, if you will. But she was the person that introduced us. And I kind of miss those days of kind of having friends or family kind of say like, hey, I think this might be a good person, rather than now just kind of like picking your dates off of online dating, which I gotta say, I kind of wish that I didn't completely miss that error, but I think I'm really okay with missing it in the end. So.
Yeah.
But okay, so you guys are both originally from Texas, so in San Antonio itself. So that's kind of cool.
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
did where did real estate even pop up for you? You're a mom of two young girls, you have a full-time career. Where did that just kind of start to kind of pop into your mind?
Well, so when I met my husband, he had a home that he purchased when he was younger, and then he had just purchased his second home. It was his great grandmother's house, and his who had passed away, and his grandmother was selling it. The house was extremely outdated. It needed a ton of work, like extensive termite damage. And so he was able to get both of them. He actually was planning on selling that first one, but then a neighbor down the street was moving out from their rental, and they had connected, and he was like, "Hey, well, can I rent yours?" And so Sean was like, "Yeah, okay." I had actually had my own home as well when I met Sean, but then when we got engaged, I did sell my house. Now thinking we always like, "Oh, we should have kept it," but at the time it wasn't right. I was in grad school and it wasn't the right time. But so then we had moved into the great grandmother's house after it was renovated. Once we had our kids, we realized we were outgrowing that house, and so we were ready to look for a bigger one. And so that's when I think real estate investing really came in the picture, because we wanted to still keep his great grandmother's house because it had sentimental value to us.
Right.
And so we got a property manager at the time. They helped us find a renter. And both of those houses still have the same renters. I mean, we've had in Sean's first house, they've been there for
Wow.
about 12 or 13 years. Yeah. And then
Wow.
I know. And then the ones in our old house, they've been there for about 4 years now, almost going on 5. And so we've been really blessed in that aspect.
Okay, I'm going to come back to those tenants in a few
Okay.
minutes here because I think that's fantastic when you can find just great tenants that are willing to stay. But
Yes.
I'll come back to that in a second. What I love about really the beginning of your story here is you really fell into that accidental landlord category,
Yeah.
right? You really accumulated a good sized portfolio without kind of intentionally even saying, like, hey, let's go buy a strict
Mhm.
investment property, right?
Mhm.
And I love that that was how you started because it really can show to our listeners that it doesn't always have to be that difficult. It doesn't always have to be intentional, that just going through life, it's also, you can kind of, in a way, play Monopoly and start to kind of collect up different homes. And it sounds
Right.
like that's what you guys did.
Yeah. And there was an advantage to that because you like the loan process is different, your down payment is different when you do that, your interest rate is different when you are moving into your primary rather than buying like an investment. And so we just as we grew, we needed more space and we were able to keep our other ones. And so yeah, very thankful for that experience.
Right.
It did flow very nicely.
And even though it sounds like now in 2020 hindsight here, you
Mhm.
regret selling your house, but I love that you very easily said that that was okay. It wasn't the time,
Right. Right.
right? I think a lot of our members also have like guilt, like, oh man, I shouldn't have sold that or I should have bought that. But what allows you to be able to say, hey, listen, it just wasn't the right time and that's going to be okay?
I mean, there's always that what if and like, oh, the regret, but you can't think about it like that. We still have grown our portfolio. We still have learned so much in this process and we have a great life. And so if I was like, oh, what if like, yes, that house would be worth probably double by now. But who knows what would have happened though if we kept it? We don't know. Like I said, I was in grad school, I was cutting back working, and so it just wasn't in the cards, and that's okay. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes things aren't.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's also a space that sometimes when things in life kind of work out in the way that they're supposed to sometimes.
Yes.
So I feel like very much I love the fact that you're able to say, like, listen, it just didn't happen that way, and that's also okay.
Yes.
So, and you still, once again, you still had a portfolio anyways from some of these other moves moving forward.
Right.
So when you were buying any of those homes after after then Sean's home and then great grandmother's home, when you were looking at some of those properties for your family to move into, did you ever say, like, oh, well, maybe this wouldn't make a good rental later on? Or, hey, we should maybe live here because it would be a good rental for us? Was that ever in your mind, or was it really just primary home? This is what I need for my family.
Right. Yeah. Primary home, this is what I need for my family. But I do think that adds a nice twist to us being a landlord and renting it out because we created a home there for our family, right? That's important to us where we feel comfortable, we feel nurtured in our environment, right? And so knowing that we experienced that in that home, I felt comfortable having
Right.
another family being able to experience that. They have a safe, clean living condition. So that's important.
Right. I how we like to kind of run our portfolios, that we really are providing clean, stable, safe housing for
Yeah.
other humans to, I always say, like, I might own the house, but they make it the home.
Right. Yes.
Right. And I love the fact that also with you living there, you get to know the property really well.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like what's been interesting over some of the properties that I've bought, it's when I bought things that were pre or investment properties, it's been nice when tenants actually did live there most of the time because they already knew how things worked. They
Mhm.
already, I didn't have to kind of then give the learning curve to a property I've never lived in to new tenants that also didn't know the property. Were there
Right.
things that you feel like you were able to share with the families moving in, saying, like, oh, and by the way, you just got to kind of jiggle the key a little bit to the left to open the door, or yeah, that cabinet sticks a little bit. Hey, it's fine. Was there anything like that that you were able to kind of pass to your tenants?
No, there was only one thing, like, you know how you can set up the lights to a light switch? So
Yeah,
she's like, "The plug's not working." And I go, "Oh, you just have to turn on the light switch." That was the only thing. Otherwise, I mean, no, just as things come across, they'll ask me, but I honestly, knock on wood, we haven't had any crazy problems.
absolutely. How did you fill those vacancies that you had? You mentioned, a neighbor kind of stopped Sean and you were able to find tenants that way. But outside of that, what have you been doing to find and attract those tenants to the other property?
The other property, we used a property manager at that time. So they had helped find the tenants, and then They managed the property for about 2 years, and then I took over. So at that time, I was, like, telling Sean, I was like, "This is we could do this. We could do this by ourselves. We could grow this portfolio." And so I went ahead and took over the management, and it's been great. Yeah.
I'm glad that that's been fantastic to be able to have them so far and be able to take over that property management now yourself, because I really do think that is something you either need to be able to know how to manage the manager or you need to manage the tenants. And to me,
Mhm.
it's just cheaper, easier, faster to just know how to manage your tenants.
I agree.
What is one thing that you wish you knew about tenant management sooner?
I think it's just that it's not as hard as people make it seem to be. I mean, you wanna find your systems, and so that was a place that I got stuck at, but honestly, it's all about just building rapport and communication with your tenants, and you just have to remember that they're humans just like you. So, I think understanding that it's not as scary as what it can seem to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the questions that we see, even in the Lady Landlords Facebook community, sometimes there's either missing information or problems that I feel like that can just be solved with a simple conversation and a little
Mhm.
bit of clarity kind of between those two people and really just kind of getting that understanding. So it
Mhm.
sounds like same thing. Like, is that a place that you usually start when there's something going on with tenants, is just to kind of call them and get some of that clarity?
Yeah, correct. I just like I want to hear their side. I want to understand their perspective. Again, they're living in the home. I want them to be
Right.
happy, comfortable, and it's a working relationship. It's not one-sided. And so understanding their perspective, I can help them figure out how to make them happy or what are the next steps. That's also aligning with our expectations as a landlord.
I love that you added that, right? It's not always just kind of like giving or agreeing with everything that they want or are asking for, but also
Mhm.
saying like, what are you willing and able to do within your own business?
Mm.
Sure. Okay. Do you remember how you found or came across Lady Landlords?
Actually, yeah. So I was on Facebook and I was searching because we had actually just purchased in 2023, we purchased our vacation home, our second home, which is a townhome near Whitecap Beach, which is over by Padre Island in Corpus. And I wanted more information about Airbnbs. I was also looking to like what's the next step? What are the next properties we want to get? How do we expand this portfolio? And then another question what I had was how do I systemize what we have so far? I did feel kind of disorganized and chaotic because we had different methods of our tenants paying. We had different modes of communication. I wanted something streamlined. And so as I was like searching on Facebook for different groups, that's how I came across Lady Landlords. And then I went down a rabbit hole. I was I was reading everything. I listened to the podcast every morning on my way to work, every afternoon on my way home. I was writing notes. Like I was just consumed. I wanted to know more. And then I saw the opportunity for the mentorship. And so then I had reached out, and that's the next step. That's how we were able to grow more, which was really nice.
That's really cool. I like that you remember exactly kind of going through the steps. And I think it's awesome that you listened to the podcast for so
Yeah.
long and now here you are actually on the podcast.
I know,
So
it's
that's
really
kind of a cool
exciting.
full circle.
Yeah, it is really cool.
You mentioned that really it sounded like systemizing tenants, scaling
Mhm,
your portfolio, and then you
mhm,
said information about the short-term rental. Do you
mhm.
remember what types of things you were kind of looking for to understand more about the short-term rental?
Yeah, like again, expectations. We had some really good short-term renters, and then we had some difficult ones, which is expected. And so just knowing more information about how other people respond, kind of getting some guidance that way, how to advertise, how to maximize that Airbnb, right? We when
Right.
we initially bought it, it was not for the purpose of Airbnb. We were like, "Oh, we can make some extra money. That's cool." But really we were just wanting a second home. Our accountant was like, "You guys need to spend some money, do some investments." And so we were like, "Okay, what's the best thing for us? What do we know?
Right.
What do we understand?" And that was real estate. And we know that real estate's never going to go away and it's only going to increase in value. And this is going to help us as we get older, as we want to retire, as our kids go to college and weddings and all that kind of those big events. And so then we started doing that with that intention that it's just a second home. A year into that, then I was like, we can really make some money. Like, let's figure out how to make more money after this. And so that's then my shift kind of went from, oh, a vacation home to like a money making.
Okay. And I see that this is really where this concept of real estate investing just really kind of picked up for you because
Mhm.
now it wasn't just like, cool, we have our tenants, they're sitting there, they've been there for years, everything's running nice and smoothly, to no, how can I offset the costs of my second home? How am I able to kind of grow this? How can I pay for bills in the future? And it just seemed
Right.
like all of a sudden you had this like avalanche kind of coming down of like all these other things that you wanted to be able to do within real estate. How did that make you feel? You said it was a little bit chaotic or disorganized with just tenants paying differently. How was it how did it feel trying to still be able to manage what you got going on that was already kind of in disarray while then thinking about scaling short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and kind of all of that avalanche falling on you?
Do you know when you have like 100 browsers open?
Yes, I somewhat have an idea of what that feels like. Yes.
So that's my brain. So then I was like, I need help. And that's where really when I was telling Sean, I was like, I need to get more information about this mentorship group. I need to figure out how I can condense and organize and because when you're at a disarray, you get anxious, right? And I was like, I don't
Right.
want to feel anxious. I want to feel prepared and I want to continue to do this. And so that was really where I was like, okay, let's do this. And so that's yeah.
Okay. What there's other Facebook groups out there. There's other mentorship programs about there. What attracted you to Lady Landlords? What made you had you spending your time and decide to look more into like our mentorship option compared to some of the others out there?
I think after hearing like the podcast, after seeing how many Lady Landlord participants were in the community, looking through the post, like it was more informational and that's what I wanted. I wanted to learn. There is like an aspect of learning from experience, but then like I wanted some I guess like hard data, right? So that's what really drew me into the Lady Landlords.
I really appreciate that. I feel like that's kind of one of my main values that I always look for is like data-driven decisions, right?
Mhm.
Real estate investing, it's a risk. It's investing. That's literally
Mhm.
it's literally one of the three main words in it. But
Right.
like investing is taking that chance, taking that opportunity. But to me, as much as we need to be able to be a little bit of a risk taker and still understand that we're just doing things a little bit differently than just throwing in monies in a 401k and hoping it works out and that
Right.
our generation actually ever gets a retirement. We have no idea if Social Security will still be around by then either. But it's also saying, but how do we make calculated decisions? How do we do that using the data, not just kind of going out, picking up anything and just hoping it really works out? So I'm really glad that really kind of aligned with you and that was something that you were looking for because that's a piece of like my core like values. So I'm glad that matched up. I
Thanks.
remember
Yeah.
like the first time then that we did talk and I got to meet Sean that day too
Mhm.
when we were kind of talking about the Lady Landlords Mentorship Program and the opportunity within it, do you remember what like clicked for you, or like at what moment you were like, "Yeah, this is the right space for me"?
I think after, like, our discussion and what you said, what entailed in the mentorship program, right? Like, you have curriculum, we have those weekly meetings with the inner circle group, we have our one-on-ones, we have our running thread of always being able to answer questions, and because questions come all throughout the day, right? And
Yes,
sometimes
I
you
am
just
very aware.
yeah, and sometimes you just can't wait for a week to get an answer, and so knowing that we had that constant communication felt like I was gonna be backed up, that I was supported, and that really clicked for me. That really did. Yeah.
That makes me really happy. When I started the group, it was really because I didn't feel very supported. I felt like I was the only person out there. I didn't really know any other landlords, definitely didn't know any female landlords. And the only people I knew were like, all rich, like white dudes that had, own buildings right in New York City.
Right,
And I'm
yeah.
like, okay, you're not exactly like cleaning out, the dirty apartment. You're not exactly knocking on a door to collect rent. Like they were
Right.
just kind of people that were very out of touch with where I was.
Right,
And when
yeah.
I started the group back in 2020, that was really my goal, was to just be able to say like, hey, I don't have anybody to bounce these ideas off of, or anybody that can tell me, am I like totally missing the mark
Mhm.
or kind of where to go. So that was really the community I was looking to build. So I'm really glad that that was something that like you saw as such a pillar of the community. That's
Yes,
really awesome because that was like my vision for this. So that's,
good.
and I feel like sometimes, we do these things, or like I try to do things in Lady Landlords and I have no idea how they fall or how people like receive that information. So it's really great to hear that what like the vision of it and what its original intentions were was
Yeah.
something that really is what you still feel today is what you get out of the group. What was interesting is when we started together, I think our first call or two, we did talk more about the short-term rental, but
Yes.
that really got replaced rather quickly with how to kind of scale what you really wanted to do moving forward. And all of a sudden that short term, I feel like that like dream of like the short term rental kind of became a lot lower on your list and other opportunities kind of got put ahead of it. Let's start with kind of like what kind of became ahead of it. What happened since like we started working together?
So we got an amazing opportunity to purchase a duplex. And this is where I say making connections is huge in real estate. It's huge in you're finding people who have good deals for you. It's huge in finding information, right? Because you can ask 100 different people and get 100 different answers. And so you're able to kind of navigate through those. It's crucial when you're finding individuals to like right now. Okay, so with the duplex, we got a steal of a deal. So thankful for that. And one side was already rented. So we were able to keep those tenants and they're there. And it's been a really smooth transition. And I want to thank the lady landlords and the inner circle and the curriculum because I don't think I would have known how to do that otherwise. The other side, we are completely renovating. We have put new flooring in, we put new kitchen cabinets in, we put new bathroom vanities in. I mean, we have cut down trees and redone the back landscape, the backyard landscape. So that's what we're currently working on. And it's been so good and so exciting. That's really when we were able to see what we can do with long term and seeing that revenue come in, it did shift my mind from I don't know if I want short-term rental so much anymore. Like I think long-term rental for us anyway is our sweet spot. We are finding more success with it. It is a little less stressful for us. And so at least for us, and not everybody is different. There are people who have short-term rentals who are very successful and they really enjoy it. And I do enjoy again like the building relationships with the people who come in because I like to hear their feedback. I like to hear that they have so much fun, they enjoyed their time, they loved how the place is, it was clean, and I really want that feedback on my short-term rentals. But I think what we wanted has shifted. I think we've been having a lot of struggles with our short-term rental. Our escrow went up, so that caused it is constantly being on top of it. And Sean and I both still work full-time jobs, right? And it is very doable. It is doable. And I'm very lucky that I'm off in the summers to be more present for the short-term rental, because otherwise I don't think I could swing it. I would lose my mind. But I just it is a lot of work. And they're both a lot of work, but I think where we are in in our life right now. I mean, we do have 2 kids. We like to spend time and doing activities with them. We don't want our entire life to be just working, right? The whole goal of real estate investing is to eventually get to a point where we don't have to be working. Like we can just have that passive income. And that's the goal. And so I'm not going to sacrifice the time right now while my kids are little. I need to find a good balance, right? So I think that's really where we are. We want to just find a good balance. And maybe the short term rental right now for us is not that balance. And it might be better in the future later on. But and that's I think that's important for anybody to assess like in their where they are in their space in their life. It just because it's not fitting right now doesn't mean it's not going to fit in the future and vice versa, right? Like it might not be well in the future, but it was good right now. And it has been an amazing learning experience. Like, I've learned so much about, managing a property from afar. I mean, that place, it's about 3 hours away from us. I learned so much about short-term rentals and permits and guidelines and making, all those things. And I am very grateful because I think it's so important to continue to learn. You need to learn all aspects of real estate investing to be successful, and you're going to be constantly learning as things change. So, in the end of it, the long-term rentals are really what's working for us and our family and in the space that we are in right now.
And I think that's one, we should always be learning. We should constantly be kind of like up leveling and upgrading and starting to investigate different avenues. So I'm glad
Right.
that you did that. But it's interesting because I feel like it's very similar back to what you were saying about the property that you sold when you got engaged, when you were back in graduate school. And it was just, it didn't make sense for what you were looking for and what you needed in your life at that point in time,
Right.
right? I feel like this is kind of the same, that you had a purpose, you had a reason for it.
Mhm.
And it was really also second home in addition to being short-term rental. But
Mhm.
then, and it allowed you to kind of look into that world a bit. And then you kind of had to reevaluate where your life was, right?
Right.
And what you wanted out of that. And I'm happy that you did that because I feel like so many women get stuck in, no, I bought this for the short-term rental and it's not working out and I really hate it, but I have to keep doing it,
Right.
right?
Don't.
And you don't. And I can see why certain people would feel like, oh, but if I don't succeed in this or if I don't go through with the plan, like then it's a failure. But to me, I think it's actually a failure to continue to do something that just doesn't fit right with you,
Right.
rather than saying, what changes can I make? It doesn't
Right.
mean we're abandoning ship. It doesn't mean that we have to never do short-term rental again. It doesn't mean that for you, Kacy, to say, no, that's it. Short-term rentals make no sense for anybody.
Right.
But you're able to say, hey, right now, with the things in my life, with the future and the path that I'm on right now, this isn't really serving it in the right way.
Right.
Therefore, let's change it and let's work more on what is working and less of what's not working. That
Right.
to me is a success rather than sitting there continuously doing things that is not that's not what you want to do. You have a career, you have a family, there are other goals that you have. This part is supposed to be the fun side. Real
Mhm.
estate's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be a bonus, it's supposed to be what kind of gives you the extras in life.
Right.
And if it's detracting from the baseline, the foundation of what you already have, it's just really not worth it.
No. And we do, I mean, we still have it and we do love it and we do enjoy going down there and enjoying it. The girls are obsessed with it. But our next plan is to try to sell it and then use that to do that 1031 exchange and then buy another property. That's going to be more fitting for us at this time. Yeah.
Right. And that doesn't mean that you can't have a second home. That doesn't mean, and I gotta be honest, sometimes I think about this. Sometimes I just want to go and like rent a place and then have somebody else that has to deal with the broken dishwasher, has
Yeah.
somebody else that has to cut the grass, has somebody else that has to clean the pool. And I could
Yeah.
just go, I think, was it you? Remind me if I'm correct here, that had an issue with a guest at the Airbnb that like had sand that got like all through the property?
It wasn't sand, it was the tar.
Oh, the tar
Tar from the
from, right.
beach. Yes. Oh, man, it was like it was just wiping their feet up the stairs of tar. And if anybody knows the San Antonio or the Texas beaches tar, it doesn't come out of things.
But like that's to me, that would be like a common hazard of
Yeah.
owning an Airbnb then in
Right.
a beach that has that type of, tar, that type of
Right.
material. Like you're not the first person that has to deal with that, but I gotta say, that sounds a
Mhm.
lot more fun to be on the guest side than the owner side.
Yeah, yeah. 100%. I have cleaned that carpet more than I want to.
But like I have my beach rental down in the Dominican Republic. It's literally beachfront. If I said, "Oh, well, you can't bring any sand into the house," like that's
It's
an
impossible.
impossibility.
Impossible.
Absolutely an impossibility. So it sounds like it's the exact same way for you. So instead of saying like, "Hey, you can't go to the beach and then come in the beach house,"
Right, no,
right?
not.
You have to come up with a solution of how to handle that. And that sounds like maybe there's some other things you could be doing with your time than once again cleaning that same carpet over and over again.
Right, right. It is
So
yeah, that. For us, going to the beach and renting something is a lot more fun.
Correct. And now you could take that property that's kind of been, I won't say it's been a complete headache for you, but that hasn't been necessarily bringing in the cash value that like you've really wanted to see from that. And
Right,
it's taking more of your time and it's producing less money,
right.
right? So I love the idea of the 1031 exchange. That way you can really exchange it for a
Mhm.
property that will take less time and bring in more stable funds.
Yes.
And then you could take the profit from that and go rent a
Mhm.
home.
Exactly. Exactly. That is the plan.
Right. So right now, your your tenants that you've had in your previous properties, they're
Mhm.
stable. Like you said, they've been there for 4 years, for 12 years. What systems do you feel like from going through like our curriculum that you've been able to implement that's been helpful or saved you time or energy with the long-term standing tenants?
Consolidating everything. That's been the biggest thing. I've been able to consolidate where we are on financials. I've been able to consolidate our communication and our payments on a platform. I I've been able to have all of our documents in one space where they have access and I have access. So that has been just a weight lift of because otherwise, again, my mind will be like 100 browsers open, like, oh, this is over there, this is over there, this I got to do this and this. And so that has been just so helpful in the process, getting that we've got them switched over. And now I'm using that with the new tenants, and I'll use that again with the tenant that hopefully we'll have the other side of the duplex completed by January, February. And so that will be the same process, and so getting more familiar also with that process has been it relieves that anxiousness, right, that you will get
Right.
from going through this, but yeah, it's been really nice, and then also with the curriculum is just I'm able to now prepare on getting the next rental up for rent because I didn't rent that last one out. I had a property manager. So now I'm
Right.
able to do it on my own. I have the tools to guide me where I need to go. And then I have the lady landlords to give me feedback as I go through this process, which is important. I don't want to put everything up and not have feedback and then I do something wrong or it doesn't look right or maybe I left some important detail out that's gonna protect me in the property or protect my family in the property. So it's been really good.
Good. I was actually gonna ask that, but I'm happy that you added that in. Like, if you have the same systems in place that you were running with the first two long-term tenants, now you
Mhm.
picked up this duplex, you inherited one set of tenants. What would have been like for you if you had added in this new set of tenants now, but still were using kind of the old, I'm gonna go with non-systems that like you kind of had in
Right.
place?
I think I would have been super anxious about it. I would have been, "What do I
Yeah.
do next? And how should I get this to them? Or how should I document this?" Because the fear is like, how do we protect ourselves, and then how do we protect them? And how do we protect the property? Again, so it comes back to it's a dual relationship. How are we both gonna feel comfortable? So I think not having something in place, it just is gonna create a lot of anxiety, or down the road, God forbid something happens, it can get you in a lot of trouble. And we're
Right. With having now those systems in place, when you add, and then listen, every time you kind of add a new tenant, there's a little bit of like a setup time, right? But it's been a couple months now. I think what, 2 months since you closed on that place.
Yes.
So now, kind of 2 months in, right? Those tenants are a little bit settled in there. Now, having the systems in place, how much extra time do you feel like you spend with having that new set of tenants on tenant management? How much time did just adding one set of tenants add now to your new systems?
I like, not very much at all, honestly. I got them the new lease. I set up the it was, like, set up the program where they can communicate and have the payment the platform, the payment. I mean, other than that, like, it's been fine. I mean, not
Right.
I couldn't I don't think I've spent more than a 24-hour time, like,
In the couple months of
in
owning
the
that
couple
property with
months
them.
of working with them. Yeah.
Right. And that's how it should be. When you have new tenants, when you buy new properties, when you have systems in place, it shouldn't take more time or more effort from you.
Right.
Right? Now you are able to really add add that family kind of into a well-oiled machine, a system that's already in place
Mhm.
for your tenant management. So that way it sounds like then the hope with that is that then you could focus more of your time on the scaling, on the growing.
Correct.
And I feel like then really what we've been spending our time over the past few months is more talking about what's going on with the rehab, making
Right.
sure to get that done. And then that way you can get new sets of tenants in there. But then also what to do within the beach house, the 1031 exchange, what property is the right property for you to really replace that with moving
Right.
forward.
Yeah, and
I
I think I wouldn't have known how to even grow without the Lady Landlords, because you give information on how to have creative financing. You give information on how to find a deal. Does this deal work for you? Is it gonna be profitable? You give information how to set it up. How are we gonna close on that deal? How are we gonna get tenants in? How do we manage the tenants? Like, it's just all those things I needed to be
yeah,
successful.
good. And I know we recently you attended our training that we were talking about with strategies for off-market properties. And
Yes.
I loved how excited you were for that. Like you kept putting like in the chat, like, oh my God, this is great. Like, oh, this is new. Like, I can't wait to do this. And
Yes.
what shifted for you kind of now thinking about like those next strategies and kind of that next level that you're really going to start moving into now in the new year?
It's just real going back to what's the goal, right? We set a goal for ourselves. Sean and I set a goal to expand, and finding out how to do off-market properties is just another tool on our expansion. I mean, in the real estate market right now, it's so wishy-washy, I guess. And so it's so important to find a good deal to get that revenue, because we don't want to put ourselves in another situation where we're in the red, right? Uh,
Right.
so it's really exciting learning new methods on how to find good deals, because it's just going to be profitable for us in the future.
Right. So, next steps for you. What are
Mhm.
you looking forward to accomplishing within your portfolio in 2025?
Getting one more long-term rental. Yeah. I mean, we have so far, I mean, the past 2 years, we've bought one per year. I think that's going to continue to be the goal until we get to a point where, like, we are kind of replacing our income, like, with our full-time jobs. We just wanna keep making sure we strive to expand and continue to learn on how to do so in a way that, again, is least stressful as possible. I mean, I'm not gonna say there's no stress. I mean,
Okay.
as you endure a new adventure, there's gonna be stress with it, and you just have to take it day by day. But it's really like how are we gonna plan for our future? Giving us income where we can retire early, or we don't have to worry about spending money, making sure like our kids are going to be taken care of when they're older. So that's really what is driving us, is just to make sure we're continuing with our goal, and we don't stop, right? We just got to keep pushing
Right. And it's step by step,
step by
right?
step.
This is something that you're still doing on the side of life, on the side of family, on the side of work, and you're
Right.
still making progress.
And it's doable. I mean, it's not like I'm working all the time. I'm still spending time with my family. I'm still spending time with my kids. So with real estate investing, you're able to do the balance of both, right? Like, you can still have your job, you can still have your family, and you can still do real estate investing. It is possible. Yes, you make some sacrifices down the road, but you'll figure out what works for you. And I think that's really important. And just to know, like, anybody can do it. I can do it. I'm normal. So it's empowering seeing other lady landlords, because they can do it. Like, if they can do it, I can do it, right?
Right.
You don't
I
I didn't
totally agree.
Yeah, like, my husband and I didn't come from money. Like, we just built this portfolio on our own. And I'm like, so if we could
Yeah.
do it, anybody could do it.
Yeah. That's why I love that you offered your time to come and share your story because I feel like that's the point of a lot of our episodes in the podcast is really to show women that you don't need to have, come from a real estate tycoon family to
Right,
be able to
yeah,
be successful in this and to even be able to make changes, right?
right,
And to alleviate stress, finances, whatever it may be that you're experiencing, this is still a way that just taking consistent small action really kind of adds up to some greatness.
it
So
does.
I'm glad you're seeing that. And I'm glad that you're also sharing that, like, once again, that the things that you've done, other women can be able to do and be able to fit into their lives as well. And it doesn't have to
Mhm.
be all consuming. right? And I think that's what I find so cool about real estate investing is that this is a supplement to the other things going on in my life.
Right.
And same
100%.
with you. Yeah. Last question I have for you. For a woman that's out there being like, I kind of want to maybe get support. Maybe I should join a mentorship program. Maybe I should reach out and ask somebody experienced to be able to help me. What would you say to them if they're kind of on the fence about doing that or joining a program?
I would say just inquire about it. Get to know. I mean, because you can have that conversation with whoever you're reaching out to, whoever you want your mentor to be, or whatever program you go through, and just get more information about it. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. And I think having someone guide you through these steps will really help alleviate any kind of worry or stress that may come with diving into a new adventure. And so I think it's important that another individual lady landlord would understand, like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. And if you're on the fence, I mean, do what's right for you at your time, 100%, but don't be afraid to take the risk. Don't be afraid to ask those hard questions. I guess at the end of it all, just don't be afraid. It'll be just,
Right.
it's good. You can do it. Anybody can do it.
Right. And listen, like it's okay to have a little bit of fear, right?
Right.
When we agree to do something that's going to get us out of our comfort zone and challenge us and be different, yeah, there should be probably a little bit of fear with that, right?
100%.
But it's kind of a good fear. And it's kind of knowing like down in our gut, like yes, I'm going to change, I'm going to grow, I'm going to be challenged. But
Right.
honestly, isn't that what we're kind of all here for?
I have that conversation with Sean all the time. Like, whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm like, but I'm growing. Isn't that the point of life? Like, to continue to challenge and grow? Like,
Right.
I don't want to be stuck in a place and just like in a mundane life. Like, I want to keep learning. I think that's really important in life. And so Sean and I have that conversation all the time. That's the point. That's the point. You gotta continue.
Right. I don't want to be the same person I am today in 5 years.
Right.
Right. I want to be different. I want
I
to
want to
see
grow.
what's kind of what things are exactly going to involve to. So I love that you kind of found a place for you where you can be in a safe space and kind of have that growth and experience and kind of work through some of those fears or some of those changes or difference, but feel safe enough to kind of take on those challenges and those risks. I think that's
Yes,
really cool.
that is.
Yeah. Well, Kacy, thank you. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story today. And I know that we will all see you back in the Lady Landlords community. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. For all of our listeners out there, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button. That way you will not miss the next episode of the Lady Landlords Podcast. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, and I know you did, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. 5-star reviews help other women be able to find our community and get the support that they are looking for as well. Thanks so much, and see you all back in the Lady Landlords Facebook group.
Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords Podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlord.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.